Pastor Brad here, and I'm so excited to share with you about a Christian metal band that made a big splash in both the Christian metal and the metal community in general. Back around the end of the 1980s and into the beginning of the 1990s, I'm talking about Recon. Part of the reason I'm so excited about sharing this with you is because as I dug into my research about this band, I learned a lot of things about Recon that I did not personally know beforehand. Really cool things. And I can't wait to share all of it with you. Listen, my prayer is that this will absolutely be fun and informative, but beyond that, the prayer of my heart is that this will also rock you up for Jesus. Around the turn of the decade, when the 80s were giving way to the 90s, Recon exploded onto the Christian metal scene with heavy riffs, powerful lyrics, and a bold faith in Jesus. In this video, we're going to explore their origins, their music, and their impact. And I'm going to do my best, although I'll let you know right up front, it's hard to find a lot of information about kind of the current state of some of the members in the band. But I'm going to do my best to share with you where Recon's legacy is showing up today. So get comfortable, tune in, man. You're not going to want to miss a minute of this. Let's do it. Rocking you up for Jesus Christ with classic style hard rock music and practical Bible teaching. Recon was born in 1987 in Los Angeles, right in the heart of the Christian metal explosion. In many ways, as we'll see together, they were a product of the Christian metal movement. Their sound combined the raw energy of thrash, classic melodic heavy metal, and straight up, in-your-face, Christ-honoring, gospel-centered lyrics. Right now, I want to share a clip with you from a Frontline Rewind interview that Les Carlsen did with the band. In this clip, the band's reminiscing about that day and the Christian metal movement and how the Holy Spirit was moving and how part of that move of God birthed Sanctuary Church, not just in one location, but it began to spring up in various locations there in the Southern California area. We learn a lot of really cool things from this clip about the hearts of the members of the band in Recon, about the move of God that was happening at that time, about Sanctuary Church and how it got started. And if you listen close, you're going to hear some really cool thoughts regarding Stryper and how truly pioneering they were and how God was using them to spark a movement that had a ripple impact into so many other bands.
A lot of this really sprouted out of Sanctuary. We all went to Sanctuary, and which was the rock and roll church. I'm sure you guys have heard of it.
Yes.
A lot of people, and I'm not taking anything away from Bob Beeman, but a lot of people think that Bob Beeman started, and he really didn't. Steve Valdez started the church out of Whittier. And, the Lord ultimately started, obviously, but he used Steve Valdez. So Steve Valdez was one of Stryper's roadies for a long time. And what ended up happening, how Sanctuary started, the Rock and Roll Refuge, we called it, was all these people started coming to Christ at Stryper shows. So they didn't have a place to go. They felt displaced as Christians. I mean, kind of looking the way they looked and blah, blah, blah. Everybody had the poofy hair and the rock and roll garb on. And so he started a Bible study. And the Bible study got so big that they turned it into a church and started meeting at a church in Whittier. And that's how Sanctuary got started. And I still remember the first meeting that Steve and I, because I started working with Steve actually in Whittier, where we actually sat down with Bob Beeman, and he was kind of going to be the overseer of Whittier for a while, and just kind of be the overseer for the staff of the church that we were meeting at. Because we met in a church we started church at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was after the regular service people were there and left, and then the stragglers, rock and rollers would come into
just
the church.
after
It's kind of a funny scene. But at that point, Bob wasn't even really directly involved with Sanctuary. We had our thing going. It was mainly Steve Valdez, and then which again came out of a Tribal Bible study. It grew from there, and then Bob really started getting involved, and then he branched off and started South Bay, and then from there another church branched off, and we started Hollywood, Sanctuary Hollywood. So really, Recon kind of sprouted from Sanctuary Hollywood, right, Eddie? Yeah.
I want to jump in for a second because I was kind of part of that movement as well. And that's what was happening with all of us. There were so many of us, players and people that God had given talents to do, and then all of a sudden it's this hard rock, heavy metal stuff, and this whole movement. And so that's how Recon was caught up in that, from Sanctuary and from what was going on. So this is the fruit of God's movement on
let's
us.
go back. Let's take it back, obviously, to even Stryper. I mean, Stryper, when they started Yellow and Black Attack, and then the Bible study, and the Bible study turned into Sanctuary, and then Sanctuary. I mean, so many bands sprouted from that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking Vengeance, Deliverance. We're talking so many bands. If you just keep going,
and
that
the
kind of
phenomenal
sprouted
thing
from that.
is that it really didn't just happen in Southern California. It was happening in Seattle. It was happening in the Midwest. It was happening in Norway and Sweden. God just did this whole big all over the world.
And what's happening now? Now it's international, right?
Yeah, it's international. Here we are again.
I want to give a shout out to Andy Rockwell over at Angelic Warlord. I really appreciate the work that he does over there. If you want to discover new Christian metal music, man, his site is just a goldmine. He writes some fantastic reviews of all the new releases, and you'd be blown away at how many new releases are coming out all the time. But he also does a lot of really great research on the background stories of bands, and I leaned on him in my research for Recon. So let me read for you a little something that Andy says about Recon. With its name short for both reconnaissance and reconciliation, Recon arose out of the ashes of defunct Southern California bands De Rouge, Prophet, and Seventh Thunder, when founding members guitarist George Ochoa, or Ochoa, however you say that, vocalist Vet Roberts, and drummer John Christensen formed a partnership. The three later recruited bassist Mike Grotto and a second guitarist Eddie Starline. In 1988, Recon contributed Light the Fire to the now iconic compilation album California Metal 2 that was put together by Regency Records to showcase new talent. Shortly after that, they were signed to Intense Records, and they began work on their debut, and as we understand it now, their only album, Behind Enemy Lines. In an interview with White Throne, Ochoa, that's how I want to say his name, it might be Ochoa. Let me know down in the comments if you are super familiar with the pronunciation of his name. But anyway, here's how he described the meaning of the title of their album, Behind Enemy Lines. Behind Enemy Lines, in enemy turf, proclaiming the light of Jesus Christ, and set captives free. We are the soldiers, and the Lord wins the battles. That's a little bit broken up, but I think you totally get it, right? We're going to do reconnaissance. We're going to go behind enemy lines. We're going to bring the good news into the darkness. You know, oftentimes I'll do videos on this channel that highlight some aspect of metal and how maybe metal's impacted the church or things like that. And I'll get comments from people who will be really, I'm just going to say critical. We should have nothing to do with darkness. So are we just supposed to conform to the world? Of course not. Light is not serving its full purpose in terms of evangelism when you just hang out with all the other lights. Light is meant to be taken into dark places so that it can illuminate and expose and show the way and bring hope. Okay, that's the end of my side rant there, okay? But Recon had that heart. We want to go behind enemy lines. We want to take the light of Christ into dark places. Love that. Behind Enemy Lines was a bold statement and an incredible blend of thrash and power metal. It made waves in both the Christian and the mainstream metal worlds alike. Dave Matillo of White Throne said this about Behind Enemy Lines. If you ever liked Queensryche and all of its numerous stylistic variations, or Fate's Warning, you should enjoy Behind Enemy Lines. I love statements like that because they're always pointed toward the fringe of the metal community who maybe are just on the outside of faith and who will be appealed to by those kinds of statements to check out a band that is bold for Christ. Here's what Larry Martin of Heaven's Metal had to say. A very talented and creative band that consists of musicians who are well seasoned in various musical tastes and training. Here's another clip from the Les Carlsen Frontline Rewind interview with Recon, and in this clip they are reminiscing about the actual recording of the album in the studio.
When did you record this one and only album that Recon recorded? What year was
89,
that?
We recorded 89 because it got released in 90.
Yeah, it takes about a year.
So we did it. We did it at Frontline Studios in Mixing Lab A and B, mainly B because only the really good bands got to record in Mixing Lab A, and we got stuck with this cheap studio.
Did we have to tell the entire world that? Well, yes, because it shows humility.
There are budgets, you know. Okay, it's our first album.
There are budgets. Was that a great experience for you guys?
Oh, absolutely.
We had a good time, yeah.
It's a privilege. Somebody had the studio the very next day after us, and we hadn't finished like 2 songs.
One Bad Pig.
And no, they weren't on that. But I remember burning the candle at both ends. We're getting Johnny's drums done, and we have some. Actually, if you look at the new CD, do we have a new CD? It's downstairs. Oh, we never took a picture. Anyways, if you look at the picture on the new CD, the reissue, there's a picture of Johnny on there, and that picture is literally him like after playing drums for like 12 hours. He's like exhausted, and because we had to finish before the next people came in. I think we left at like 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning the next morning, and the next people were going to come in at like 8. So
that was you and I.
And you and I too.
We stayed from about 7 o'clock at night till the next morning. You and I only.
Oh, okay.
And I had got home. We got there and I had to fly back to Arizona that same morning.
Yeah, that picture of you in there too. Was it? Yeah. There you go.
I mean, you got to do that because people that don't know about studios, once you got the drums set and the mics are up and everything else, you can't tear them down and move them out because then you got to start over. Right. So Johnny, it was a big night for you, huh?
It was. Yeah, I remember. I think I
had to go to work the next day.
I had to be at work that same day as well. So
the funny thing is when you hear Johnny playing on the drums, you not only hear his drums, but you hear his voice. And if you listen to it, he's going, you know.
So I keep my
classic, the way he keeps his meter.
That's cool. You should mic that. It should be a thing.
That was Mike. I remember mixing the drums at one point, and I'm listening to. I soloed just the drums, so I'm hearing the drums, and I'm hearing Johnny's voice, and I look back behind me. I go, I thought Johnny left, and I go, where's Johnny? And it's coming through the mics, and it's like as he's going, and I'm going, oh my God.
All right, so that's on the Recon.
That's on the record. If you guys listen really closely, you'll hear it.
Songs like Dreams, Take Me Away, and Lost Soldier weren't just headbangers. They were that, but they weren't just that. They were spiritual battle cries that encouraged and inspired believers to stand firm for Christ and to let their light shine behind enemy lines in this world. Here's another great clip from the Les Carlsen Frontline Rewind interview with Recon. In this clip, one of the band members is reflecting on the powerful message presented in the song Lost Soldier.
James tells us that you need to try to save this brother as if you're pulling him out of the fire. Mm-hmm. So that's a sense of urgency that sometimes we don't have. So not only is a way of listening to the song and examining yourself, but seeing who else is around you and trying to save them. Not judge them, like I said, out of the cases, but save them as is to save them from the fire. I think that also Jesus talked in Matthew, how when you talk with the brother is to win your brother. And Jesus and James, both brothers, they have the same sentiment, which is we're not here to judge you, we're here to save you, to help you, to bring you back into the flock. Mm-hmm. And I think that Lost Soldier really puts a finger in a very open wound to a lot of people and to all of us as Christians, to watch our steps and to watch our brothers, because this fight is not over yet. We know how it's going to end, but we're still fighting it. So,
you want to hear some Holy Spirit anointed lyrics? Listen to these lyrics from the song Lost Soldier. Feel the fire, burning desire. Fan into the flame, fire that can never die. Feel the fire, burning desire. Take hold of the sword, the word of life, the armor of God to prepare you for the fight. Man, that is good stuff, isn't it? The album Behind Enemy Lines is now a cornerstone of Christian metal history. And speaking of cornerstone, while the vast majority of shows that Recon did were in the greater LA area, they did venture east at least once and performed at Cornerstone in 2001. For those of you who don't know, Cornerstone was a massive annual festival in central Illinois. Resurrection Band, Japuza, Jesus People USA, that whole community, they had a big hand in launching and maintaining that festival for years. It was huge. Thankfully for us, at least one fan was right there at that performance in the front row with a video camera, so I can share some clips of this show with you right here.
Are you ready? Yeah!
I will definitely put links to all the clips that I'm sharing with you in this video, including the ones we just watched, in the description. So you can go down there and click on and watch the entirety of all of these videos if you really want to do a deep dive. Near the end of my research, I stumbled onto another really cool gem. On real80sccm.com, I read this about Recon's Cornerstone performance. This, which is a reference to the Behind Enemy Lines album, was their only studio album, but they did also have a Live at Cornerstone album released by Millennium 8 Records in 2001. So I thought, okay, I gotta find this recording, right? I did a little bit of digging, and lo and behold, I found it, man. You can listen to the entire Millennium 8 Records recording of Recon's performance at Cornerstone, and Millennium 8 Records did a nice job of producing this. It's really a good quality recording at Last FM. If you're not familiar with Last FM, they're just another platform that streams music of all kinds. And they got the whole show there, man, and it really sounds good. Now, as we begin to think about where is Recon today, unfortunately, and I looked, I wasn't able to find really any information about most of the band members. If you know something about where certain band members are, definitely let us know down in the comments, okay? That'd be awesome. But I can confirm that in 2013, Recon lead guitarist, and I'm going to say it this way, George Ochoa, and again, some of you might know him from his days with Deliverance, but he hooked up with vocalist Ray Parra of Sacred Warrior, who stylistically is similar to their original lead singer, Vet Roberts. And the two of them brought in Todd Libby to play bass and keyboards, and Terry Russell to be their drummer. And they created the band that is today known as Worldview. Yes, I will put a link to Worldview's website down in the description as well. Worldview, whose music I would describe as kind of a heavy progressive metal, released their album in 2015 called The Chosen Few. Now this is wild. Just this past fall, I went to Immortal Fest in Versailles, Ohio, and Worldview was there. And I hadn't even made these connections, so I really didn't know how to appreciate what I was witnessing. Here's a couple clips from Worldview's performance at Immortal Fest 2024. Man, I hope you enjoyed that and that it rocked you up for our King. Keep your eyes on Jesus.